Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mystic Turtles. That's right, Playmates has given us another set of TMNT variants that are based on the cartoon series. The episode where the turtles donned their mystic outfits was really cool, so I'm pretty excited to check out these brand new action figures. Now, as you can see, the four turtles do come on that brand new blister card packaging that we're seeing with all the Ninja Turtles figures here in 2015. It's got that brighter yellow and green background, with each card back having an image from the cartoon series of the respective Ninja Turtle that the action figure in the package is based on. And when you flip those packages around to the backside, we get bios for each of the Mystic Turtles, and down below that, we get a look at some of the figures that are currently available and upcoming in the TMNT toy line. Hey, check it out! Napoleon Bonafrog's on the way. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these four turtles outside of the boxes and take a closer look at them. Now, first things first, it is really cool to see that Playmates is still sticking with the scale between the four turtles. Donatello still remains the tallest, while Michelangelo remains the shortest. And they do all feature the same color skin that we've seen on all of the other versions of the turtles so far. So it is always nice to see that uniformity sticking true. Now, the first thing that you're really going to notice with these guys outside of the packaging, or at least the first thing that I noticed, is that there is a severe lack of paint detail with these. Looking at these figures on the back of the packages, they look a lot cooler than the final products that we've got here. In fact, there really isn't a lot of actual paintwork on these turtles at all, with most of the parts on these figures just being molded in the colors that you see. And it gets really bad when we start looking at a lot of the sculpted details on the figures, specifically on the arms and the legs, where you can see lots of cool details like the wraps and the armor pieces that they're wearing that are specific to these outfits. They're all unpainted. They are just molded in the same green color as the turtles' skin tones. On top of that, all of the belts and everything that we see on these turtles that should actually be black or gray or white are just molded in purple and blue, and they've got kind of the colors going on that match their bandanas where it really shouldn't be doing that. So I wanted to get that out of the way straight ahead, because I feel that that's a real bummer with these guys. If you look at the pictures of the figures on the back of the packages and you see what they should have looked like fully painted, we would have got a lot cooler looking action figures than what we wound up with. So, with the lack of paint out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual sculpt and design of each of the turtles. So all of these turtles wore these outfits in the cartoon series when they were on a bit of a spiritual quest. So it's pretty neat seeing kind of a change up to the classic turtle design. So taking a look at Michelangelo, you'll notice that his orange bandana completely covers the top of his head and has the little bandana pieces kind of coming down over his shoulders in the front. He's also got cool little spiked pads on his shoulders. He does have some nice colored wraps on his wrists there, and then you've got the bright orange knee pads right there on his knees and the elbow pads on his elbows. And unfortunately, my Mikey's got a little bit of a white paint splotch right there on his nose that I can't get off. Mikey actually looks one of the best out of these guys, because he does have a little bit of variance in colors with those kind of whitish wraps around his wrist and the darker colors on the spikes on his shoulders there, but definitely is missing a lot of paint deco there on his feet. Moving on to Rafael. He's got a really cool hood over his head, and his red bandana kind of dangles down in front of his face. It's a very, very cool look there. You'll notice that there is some really cool sculpt work on his arms where it should be painted more silver and brown. And flipping him around to the backside, you can see at the top of his shell there, he's got those two little kind of gasoline tanks, which is what he used for his cool flamethrower accessory in the cartoon series. Leonardo's got a really cool look where he's got this whole hood over his head as well as a long cape that's draped down his body. The hood is part of the head sculpt, just like we saw with Rafael there, so the hood is non-removable. Does have some cool little details like the little tear in the side there. And the cape is also non-removable from the figure. Could probably be pulled off over the head if you really wanted to, but it doesn't really look like it's meant to. It is made of a softer plastic though, so it is flexible. And aside from that, he does just have kind of the blue color scene on his belt, his knee pads, and his elbow pads, and the rest of the figure is just done in his skin tone green. And then we come to Donatello, who's got one of the most unique looks out of all the turtles because he's got this really cool mask over his face. Now the mask is part of the head sculpt, so it's non-removable, and over that he does have a purple hood, and then he's got this kind of purple little tunic thing that's sitting over his shoulders, which just like Leonardo's cape is made of a softer material, but is not really meant to be removed from the figure. Then aside from that, he just has the purple on the elbow pads, the knee pads, and his belt there, with the rest of the figure being done in his skin tone green. So you look at all the sculpt work on these turtles and you can really see a lot of cool details. I gotta say it again, if that was all painted, these guys would look so much cooler. So let's go ahead and check out the articulation. For the most part, the articulation is exactly the same on all 4 turtles, and it's pretty standard to what we've seen from a lot of figures in this lineup. The heads are on ball joints so they can look left and right, slightly up and down, kind of roll around there. You got the joints at the shoulders there that allow the arms to go upwards, forwards, and backwards. You have a standard bend at the elbow, as well as a swivel at the elbow. Then you have the hinge joints at the thigh, so the legs can go outwards, forwards, and backwards, as well as swivel. You got swivels at the knee, as well as a standard knee joint. So that's pretty much all the articulation you're going to get on all these turtles, with the exception of Leonardo. For some reason, Leonardo has an extra articulation point. He has wrist swivels, which is fantastic. I would love to see more of these Turtles action figures come with wrist swivels because it would really help out with their poses while holding their weapons. And it works very well with Leonardo's katanas. So let's go ahead and move on into the weapons now, because all of them do come with a whole slew of weapons. I mentioned the katana blades with Leonardo, and they do also come with a cool little double sheath to store the swords in. Now, these don't actually attach to his back like we've seen in the past. He does, however, instead have a little peg hole on the side of his belt so that you can have the swords hanging from his side. It's a neat idea, but they're a little bulky, so it does seem a little in the way when he's wearing it there. The swords do fit great in his hands though, and with those wrist swivels you can get some really great poses. They are, however, unpainted, which is pretty common for this line. The weapons are all just done in a solid brown color. Now, aside from his signature katana blades, Leonardo also comes with a cool bow and arrow accessory, something else he used in that cartoon series. The arrow is permanently attached to the bow, and it's all made of kind of a hard plastic there, but it does look pretty cool in his hands, and you can even get some pretty decent arrow drawing poses out of them. They're not perfect, but I've certainly seen worse on action figures. So Donatello includes 3 different accessories. He has a large hammer accessory, he has the Ono stone axe, and then he has this little bundle of weapons, which honestly doesn't really fit in his hands very well, so it's kind of a useless accessory. But the axe and the hammer are both awesome. They're just molded in a solid silver color there, and he can hold them in his hands just fine, and you can even get some nice two-handed poses out of both of those weapons. Michelangelo includes twin comma blades, as well as this really crazy little kind of axe-spiked hammer type weapon. Kind of looks just like a bat with like stones and spikes sticking out of it. Really cool looking little design. However, again, all the weapons are unpainted, so they're just done in this bright orange color. But he can hold those weapons just fine in his hands. The commas look extra cool in his hands. You will notice on his backside, he does have the places where he would normally store his nunchuck, but he doesn't come with any nunchuck. In fact, aside from Leonardo, it's worth mentioning that neither Raph, Mikey, or Don come with their signature Ninja Turtle weapons, which is really interesting here. You can put the commas in those little holsters on his back, but it is a little loose. They were definitely made for nunchuck that he doesn't have. And finally, we come to Rafael's weapons, which is this really crazy looking spiked mace, this awesome little handheld blade, and this cool little blaster which would shoot the flames out of it. Now, I gotta say something about all these weapons with Raph. They're done in this solid red color, but all of the weapons are very, very gummy. They're soft and flexible. It feels like they're all made out of the same material as his bandana. I am not sure why that is, especially since all the other weapons with the rest of the turtles are so rigid. So, kind of a shame that these are so soft. However, I do really like the look of the blaster and especially that handheld blade. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the Mystic Turtles from the Nick Turtles cartoon series. So I really loved the episode that the Mystic Turtles appeared in, and I was very excited about the idea of getting these costumes in action figure form. but I have to say it, I'm slightly disappointed in the final product of these action figures. There are two big things that I think would have made a world of difference. Number one, I wish all the turtles had wrist swivels just like Leonardo. I know articulation has been hit or miss in this line, and I don't expect super articulation with these figures, but the wrist swivels are such a nice touch, especially for holding the weapons. And number two, I really wish the paint jobs matched what we see on the back of the packaging. These guys really don't have a lot of paint at all, and it really hurts the overall look of these guys. The sculpts are great, and if all of those sculpted details were painted to look the way they were supposed to, these guys would be so much cooler. Still, they're fun designs. If you can get past the lack of a paint job on here and you did enjoy the cartoon series, these could still be fun new variants to pick up and add to your collection. I'll leave that up to you guys. The Mystic Turtles are starting to hit store shelves right now, so happy hunting, my friends, and until next time.
Oh.